Okay, so now I'm going to use the stainless steel rod. It's E308L stainless steel rod, and you don't hear about this one being used too often, but let me tell you, it's a great rod. I love using it. It is very easy to use. It's a drag rod. There's no need to really oscillate it. You just kind of put it down and keep it tight to the material, and just let it go, and it does its thing, and it behaves beautifully. And in this particular instance, I'm doing a bit of a weave. You can see that I'm going kind of up and down pattern, weaving across, and that's just for a kind of a different effect here. I wanted to demonstrate a weave to lay down a nice thick weld here. Oftentimes when you're doing a plate test, your final your final cover pass will be a weave, and of course there are other instances in welding in general where you'll need to weave, and I thought I'd just go ahead and throw that in. Now here what we have is the weld has been done, and you can see right off the bat it's much thicker than your typical stringer. Even in this shot you can tell. And by the way, if you notice this white kind of ghost image in the middle of the screen, I apologize. That's really a bad glare that got into the lens. I've been experimenting with different ways to film this, but anyhow, apologize for that. Now as I crack the slag off, notice the slag comes right off just as easy as 7018, maybe even easier. And it's hard to see with the kind of the green protective lens here, but these beautiful purple colors emerge from this weld. As soon as you use a wire wheel on it, those purple colors vanish, but it's an effect of the heat on this particular filler metal, and it's really a nice looking weld. It's something to behold when you see it for the first time. Beautiful coloring. Anyhow, here's the weld. I'm basically wire wheeling it down, and you can see I didn't do much to it except for just gently weave it back and forth. And I wish I would have gotten a close-up of this, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful weld. And you can see I'm indicating the back and forth weld weave. I like it. Okay, so there it is. It's kind of hard to see because there's just so much going on in this picture here, but we straightened up this pad really nice here. This is the edge of the last bead I did with the stainless steel rod, and there it is, and it's all the way across here, and you can see it continues and keeps on going all the way through into the other beads. Now this is a great exercise for fixing mistakes, for straightening things out. Obviously this weave is a little bit wider than the rest of them, but if you're doing padding and you really need to just deposit the metal on there, well, what else are you going to do? I mean, it's a matter really of just getting metal on there. Probably you're not going to have to be dealing with any kind of tolerances in terms of tensile strength, because usually when you're padding like this, it's for stuff like tractor buckets and the bottom of recycling containers and things like that. Stuff that's just going to get beat up and go through a lot of wear and tear, and that's the whole purpose of this in the first place, is to beef it up a little bit so it'll last longer. So anyway, this is a great way that if you mess up, if you start going in a kind of a loopy angle like we did before, you can kind of get back into it and straighten it out just using a little soapstone and a little patience. Also, these rods, the stainless steel rod, I really enjoy it. I wish I could use it for more than just stainless steel, and maybe I can, but I just haven't really researched it. It's a wonderful rod. I think it's easier to use even than a 7018. It just, at least for me it is. It just, it behaves like a dream. It spreads easily. It's easy to manipulate. It's easy to put it where you want it. And the color that comes out when the slag comes off is just really, that deep purple is something to really behold. So anyhow, now as I promised, the next phase of this is to do 6013, which is a rod I'm really not too happy about doing, but I promised it, so let's get on to that next. Okay, YouTube, so as promised, we're going to do a 6013 rod now. Before I get started, let me explain why people don't like running 6013, and myself included. What happens is the weld puddle wants to constantly get ahead of you. And when it does, it creates these terrible slag inclusions. Some people call them wormholes, some people call them divots, what have you. But what ends up happening is you get these big holes of slag inclusion, porosity. They look terrible. And then the whole weld has to be pulled out, and it's a mess. So what I try to do is I try to use the lowest amperage I can. In this instance, I'm using a 1A6013 on DC positive, and the low end of the amperage spectrum is about 85, 88 amps, I believe. So I'm actually going to run it at 90, which is my preferred amperage for most 1/8 electrodes, and see if I can stay ahead of that weld puddle, because if I can't, you'll know it right away. Here we go. That seemed too easy. There must be something wrong. I'm very suspicious, and that ran way too easy for 6013. In fact, I don't think I've ever had such an easy time with it. The only thing I will say is it's difficult to manipulate. I have trouble actually moving it across, weaving it, if you would. It's not as fluid as other rods. It doesn't really want to move with you. So I tried to weave it a bit, but you can see there's a little bit of a valley here between one and the other. I'm going to tempt fate here and run one more. I'm going to run it along this edge here and see if I can't get it over a little bit more, because really when you run a pad, you want them to kind of overlap each other so that it seems like one continuous padding here and not you know, a bunch of ripples throughout. So let's see if we can't get this to look a little bit better. I'm speechless, totally speechless. You guys saw it yourself, live on YouTube. The slag peeled up on its own and fell off. So it's like this is like a self slag removal rod, I guess. That is ideal. That is the best possible case scenario you can ask for. And if you notice, the weld doesn't look half bad either. I am really shocked. I don't know what to say other than this is very fluky. I've never had such great success with 6013. And it doesn't look half bad. Let me wire brush it real quick and see where we're at. Well, obviously I'm pretty darn happy with that. Can't complain at all. Hey, listen, I hope you guys enjoyed this week's YouTube video. I will try to get the next one out a little bit sooner than this one. Just remember to please continue to subscribe to my YouTube channel, rate it, like it if you did like it, and I'll see you on the next one. I think this is a great place to end it. Bye-bye.